Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bad Lit Friends, the writing podcast that still barely knows what it's doing. I'm your host, Kirk Rafferty, and this is my co host.
Hi, I'm Meagan Thompson-Mann. And today we are talking in season 2, episode 6, about first pages in novels. What makes them work, what doesn't make them work, and some examples of ones that we liked or thought were cool.
Yeah. These are obviously, this is it's the one thing every novel has in common, right? Is
Page
that
1.
page one.
I mean, you could really think out of the box and start on page 4.
Yeah. We, we're going to do an episode like that at some point. What are the best page 4s? What are the best page 17s that we have
Ooh.
run across? Yeah.
Page 17, line 8, third word, fifth letter. Which is the letter that wins?
This is
Fight!
how edgy Bad Lit Friends is. We do the things that nobody else will do. Because they're cowards, Meagan. They're cowards.
Oh, okay. I believe you about that one.
Yeah.
So these are highly personal picks that we are going to be sharing with you. Believe me, there's probably better ones, but these are the ones you're going to get.
That's
So
right. That's right.
if you have a problem, don't bring it to us. No.
If you have a problem with it, we'll give you your money back.
Yeah, all $0 of it.
Yes.
So how's your rating going right now?
My writing is going pretty good. I would say that right now, I'm just kind of writing. So nothing to report other than just putting words on the page. How about you?
Well, I've been super busy at work, and so I have not been writing as much as I want, but I did write a fair amount over the weekend, about
Hmm.
2,000 words. I had to write a lightly smutty scene. This is very outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah, me
While
too.
I have a potty mouth, I find it quite difficult to, as I've discussed before, to write anything that vaguely involves people doing anything more than kissing and maybe stroking a cheek. It's the cringe. It's like every molecule of my body is cringing. But as I was progressing, I decided that I had cringed so sufficiently that I was going to end the scene where it was and just keep things moving along. I was like, this is a good enough place to stop. I think we can see exactly what's happening.
Fade to black.
Fade to black.
Yes.
So we're talking about book openings.
Hmm.
What's an opening for? Anyway,
Well, as I said earlier, you have to start the book somewhere, right?
yeah.
So in terms of, pulling in a reader, pulling in an agent, something like that, of course, it is also to hook the reader, right?
Mhm.
So typically you want your opening line to be something that really grabs the reader. So this is actually pretty funny because, one of the things they tell you not to do is start by like talking about the weather, right? Because that is not a hook.
I'm
It's just
about to
very
break
boring.
that rule for you
Yeah,
later.
so as I was looking through books, like some of my favorite books, I came across 2 of them that, by very well-known authors that both start by talking about the weather, and I just had to laugh. I will not name those authors, but yeah. So
You can
apparently
pay Kirk $5 and he'll share the names of those authors.
yes, true,
Yes.
true. Maybe $25.
Okay. Fair enough. These are inflationary times. So
That's right.
I'll allow it. And also, you are trying to establish the tone of your novel,
Mhm, mhm.
the voice of your novel, who's in your book,
Yeah,
who's saying the lines, what are they? And this is you establishing your characters, at least some of your world. You're also going to be setting the opening situation and probably the stakes, right? Or at least part of the stakes are
right,
going to be there.
right.
Yep, there's a lot happening on first pages, especially these days. You need to be economical in the number of words that you're using to get through all of these things. You hear it and you're like, "Oh my god, how can I do all of these things in one page?" Especially like, on your first page and maybe half of that is just chapter 1, and then, like, a big amount of space, and then your first paragraph starts, like, halfway down, like, "Oh my god."
And I don't think, I think it would be a bad idea to try to fit everything into even the first couple paragraphs but as long as you're kind of building towards something, right? So, maybe first you hook the reader, you establish voice, you introduce your main character, and then a little bit later we get some world building and you roll one thing into the next
Mhm.
and um as you're kind of building this engagement.
And you just touched on something really that I think is really important, that really in different genres, you're going to have different expectations of what hooks
Absolutely.
are, about
Absolutely.
pacing, it in in literary fiction, for example, you can be a lot slower, but you have got to have voice if you're doing that. You or an amazing character, something or a setting, something that still grabs you, even if things aren't like, Mission Impossible, which I always say because I can never think of anything else. But you don't need to, if you're not having explosions or you're not having somebody like in my first book with somebody running away. You still need to have something happening. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
you're yeah, even I was reading around this week about first pages, and I happened on some Reddit thread that was ancient of people arguing about Joyce's Ulysses and how can you be an English major and not like Joyce, especially not like Ulysses, and they were talking about, like, there's nothing happening in that first page, and people are like, "Everything is happening in that first page." So, it's you can see all sorts of people have very different viewpoints when they're looking at the same text because we're all bringing our own individual sets of eyeballs and experiences to them. So, there's no way of saying like, "Oh yes, this is a lit fic and it's I expect it to be slow, but it can be fast."
Mhm,
There's no
mhm.
reason why it has to be literary fiction has to be slow. In fact, that's a dumb rule that's not even a rule. But for thrillers, you definitely wanna see something. As we've talked about before, you wanna see somebody dead, or you wanna see if you're from the US government, I do not wanna see anybody dead. That was just me saying something. You wanna see a dead body, you wanna see a gun, you wanna see peril, action, something. So, romance, you wanna see one of your main characters, and you wanna start feeling some identification or at least interest in that character.
Yes, absolutely.
What other expectations in other genres can you think of besides like thrillers and romance? Are there any other like what about horror? What are you looking for in horror?
Yeah, I think horror and horror is not my main genre. But I think with horror, you're looking at sort of setting up the normal world initially before you kind of dive into like what makes it supernatural or what makes it horrible, right? Is you want to set you want to establish that kind of status quo initially. If you think about any slasher flick that you've ever seen, think about like the teenagers or they're all arriving to summer camp. They're all meeting each other and they're setting up their cliques and things like that. So you're going to start with something like that.
So essentially, these are promises that you're kind of writing into being. Like, this is what my book is going to be about, at least in
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
So the question is, this is a promise, but can you deliver on that promise? We just did an episode about it, about starting your book in the wrong place. And if you started in the wrong place, you might be making a promise you're never going to deliver on. So let's dive in and talk about some books. I mean, books, what are they? What are they for? Why are we writing them? These are all questions for the ages. Why don't you kick us off?
Sure. I'll start off with just a classic that probably everybody knows, and it is that very first line from Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." And if that doesn't basically set up the entire story, then
Mhm.
nothing will. That really is the crux of it.
It's the whole shebang right there in one sentence.
Yeah, yeah.
And the great thing is, if you're coming to it for the first time, you have no idea that she has just put the whole plot in one. sentence.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
great.
It's, it's very simple, but it's kind of a masterpiece of a first line too, and that's why I threw it in is it's sort of cheating because it is, it's Jane Austen. And again, we're not telling you you have to put your entire plot in the first sentence, right? I'm just throwing this out because it really is it's an opening line that speaks to me just because it takes that entire book and packs it into one complete sentence.
Yeah. It's incredibly economical, and it also draws you in. Like, "Okay, that's a great
Mhm,
proposition. Why are you
mhm.
giving it to me, Jane?
Yeah, yeah.
How are you gonna follow that up, Jane?" And, what follows is an absolute romp, a comedy of manners. It's a critique of the economics of marriage and what worth a woman has in that particular culture at that particular time. And we get to meet grotesques and, every women and villains.
It also does some world building here too
Mhm.
by saying it is a truth universally acknowledged. Well, what is this truth that is universally acknowledged? It is in fact universally acknowledged within this very specific piece of society. Because it probably if you take it literally, it probably is not universally acknowledged, but it definitely is universal in this very small subset of society that
Yeah,
the story takes place in.
yeah. It's a banger.
Alright, what's yours?
Okay, let's stay in the 19th century.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows me knows my abiding love for Charles Dickens's Bleak House. Don't let the name fool you. Bleak House is so much fun. Especially if you're somebody who is not turned off by big, fat doorstop novels, you owe it to yourself to read Bleak House because,
Yeah, can I
yeah,
give you a confession here? I
yeah,
I have not read Bleak House.
it's okay. You still,
Simply for the volume of it, right?
it's
It's
okay.
very intimidating.
You can read. Okay, so before I get into how it opens, you have to think about how he published at the time, right? So he's writing essentially, episodes
Mhm,
of this book.
mhm,
He's writing for a periodical magazine at the time. So
mhm.
if you're coming to it and you're like, Jesus Christ, it's a 900-page novel, or however long it is in the particular edition that you have. If you think about it as just issues of a magazine and you're just reading a chapter at a time or a couple of chapters, it becomes a lot less intimidating. What do you get in a Charles Dickens novel? You're getting everything. You are getting everything.
Mhm,
You've
mhm.
got, poor people, rich people, slimy people, morally upright people who actually turn out to be slimy people. You have got it all. And underneath all of it is a book about a lawsuit. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there it is.
There it is. Okay. But okay. So it breaks one of the big rules that we always talk about, for don't open with weather.
Yeah.
But it opens with weather. I'll read the opening line, the opening couple of lines, and then I'm going to skip a little bit so we'll get straight to it because there is something totally crazy going on here. So,
Mhm.
London, Michaelmas term lately over, and the Lord Chancellor sitting in Lincoln's Inn Hall. Implacable November weather. As much mud in the streets as if the waters had but newly retired from the face of the earth. And it would not be wonderful to meet a megalosaurus, 40 feet long or so, waddling like an elephantine lizard up Holborn Hill. How about that?
Yeah.
Yep,
That's a hell of an opening line.
that is amazing. And then there's a whole description of how filthy and sooty and nasty it is in London about smoke coming down and how dogs are indistinguishable in mire. This is a filthy, gross, disgusting day. And then we get fog. Fog everywhere, fog up the river where it flows among green eights and meadows, fog down the river where it rolls defiled among the tiers of shipping and the waterside pollutions of a great and dirty city. Fog on the Essex marshes, fog on the Kentish heights, fog creeping into the cabooses of collier brigs, fog lying out in the yards and hovering in the rigging of great ships, fog drooping on the gunwales of barges and small boats. Fog is everywhere. And when we think about London, we think about fog.
Sure.
This is not just like, okay, here's scene setting. Here you are in London, in filthy old London. This whole book is about metaphorical fog.
It's almost like fog is kind of a character.
London is
Yeah.
an entire character in this novel, and you get everything here. You get this is a disgusting city. You get the Lord Chancellor, so you get a hint that there's going to be some legal shenanigans going on here. But
Mhm.
this image of the megalosaurus, what? Like coming up Holborn Hill. What
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
fuck? There's a dinosaur? In Dickens, like, who's expecting that? It is such a powerful image of that you could imagine that you are in a place that is so covered in fog that it almost seems possible that anything could be hidden in it.
Yeah.
I just love this so much because it is so intensely weird and not what you are expecting at all. So, yeah.
And if you're writing a modern novel, do not do this.
Do not do this. But what it does is it is world building
Yeah,
through
absolutely,
this is
absolutely.
setting an atmosphere for and what's important to know as well is that this is an omniscient third person novel. And so you're able to start with the lens pulled out completely to see the grand sweep of this dirty, filthy city where dirty, filthy things are happening. And there are hints. They are going a little bit further out from London. We're talking about Kent, we're talking about the Essex marshes. So you know that we might be going a little bit further afield. We're talking, as I said, about the legal system. You don't need to know everything. You're just getting the first hints of everything. So I will shut up now and let Kirk take the reins.
Well, this next book that I have is not about London. It is about Los Angeles, though, which you also know a little bit
Yes, I
about.
do. Yes.
This book is It's Mayfly by CJ Lead, and you and I actually met her.
We
We sat and
did.
had dinner with
We
her at
did.
the Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers Conference. I really enjoyed speaking with her, and I freaking love this book. This is horror, and just word of warning. Well, what I'm gonna read here is not too horrible. But if you do set out to read this book, which again I highly recommend, it is a body horror book, so, fair warning. But her opening I'm gonna read the first 2 paragraphs because this opening is just killer. So, here's how Maeve Fly opens. Every man shares the same fantasy, and it is this. He will marry a universally beloved sweetheart, live a noble life, and succeed in all the ways his father taught were best. And when he stands at the pinnacle of filial and paternal achievement, when he has finally reached that great height of goodness, honor, and inarguable virility, then and only then his wife, child, and pet should be ripped from him violently, unforgivably, restoring ultimately freedom. Because he has done the good thing, the right thing, and only then become the victim of its vanishing, this virtuous man may now turn with the full support of any onlooker to violence, rage, nihilism, and debauchery, which were his ultimate true aims all along, to lose himself in the glorious, sanctioned rapture of retribution. How many husbands of wives have lined up at the box office to live out this exact fantasy that they deeply, fundamentally, and brutally desire? Men are insipid, stupid creatures. How it's just a punch in the face. And this is really a just so packed full of energy, but the whole book just continues like that.
Ugh.
In your example, we're talking a lot about world building, right? We're setting up the London of this story. Here, we are setting up the main character,
Mhm.
and we learn a lot about the main character, Maeve Fly, in this sentence, in this couple paragraphs right here.
It honestly, I can hear Dickens in her, and I hear Austen. It's the we're talking, "Let's center a man immediately," you know?
Sure, sure.
And then let's with Austen, we'll just poke a couple of holes in him. But with Lead, it's like, tear his fucking brains out, like,
Yeah,
shank him. And, because he's a shit. And not only is he a shit, all men are shits for these very specific reasons, because no matter how noble they play, they're never actually that person.
yeah.
That's
It
actually, yeah,
isn't
it's really interesting. That's really interesting. It's so beautiful and so
It's
brutal.
very jagged, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's it really is an interesting juxtaposition with Jane Austen, right?
Mm,
With Jane Austen's opening, you've got, it is the, single man in possession of a good fortune must be
mhm.
in one of a wife, and, Mayfly just shreds that,
Yeah, it's like,
just
okay, well, he was in wanted of a wife, then he got one, then he got the kids,
yeah,
but fuck him. Underneath all of it,
yeah.
fuck him.
Here's what he really wants, yeah.
Yeah, just yeah,
Yeah.
wow, talk about writing that makes me wanna give everything up. That's it. I'm done. Bye. That's something that I'm exploring in the book I'm writing right now, as somebody who a man who to the outside world looks perfect, who is
Mhm.
achieving, the dream, but he's rotten at the core, right? Because that is such a great opening, at least as good as a Megalosaurus.
For sure. It's not so much a commentary on men. It is this like a core belief of the main character in the
Mhm.
book. So we already learned so much about her, which she's kind of filled with this quiet rage.
Yeah. It comes right through. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, what do you got?
Okay. So, apparently I can't stop talking about London. Because
Oh, look
we
at this.
yeah, yeah.
1986 at a London
Yeah,
hotel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Sorry.
yeah, well, I wanted to, pop forward about 140, 50 years, and, I wanna talk about Crazy Rich Asians by
Yeah.
Kevin Kwan.
Yeah.
I admit that I watched the movie before reading the book, and I also admit that I have not completely finished the book. But this is another book that breaks rules. In fact, all of my examples tonight break a lot of rules,
Mhm.
which is why I think they're really interesting, because they are the exception. And this breaks the rules. Crazy Rich Asians breaks the rule that that Kirk and I say, no prologues. No, absolutely none. Fucking great prologue. So good. So good. Doesn't overstay its welcome. Tells you every single thing that you need to know about what you're about to read in the main part of the book. So it is set in London in 1986. Nicholas Young slumped into the nearest seat in the hotel lobby, drained from the 16-hour flight from Singapore, the train ride from Heathrow Airport, and trudging through the rain-soaked streets. His cousin, Astrid Long, shivered stoically next to him, all because her mother, Felicity, his daiguche, and I'm sorry, I am going to mangle a lot of Cantonese here, or at least some of it, so apologies. Or big aunt in Cantonese said it was a sin to take a taxi 9 blocks and forced everyone to walk all the way from Piccadilly Tube Station. Anyone else happening upon the scene might have noticed an unusually composed 8-year-old boy and an ethereal wisp of a girl sitting quietly in a corner, but all Reginald Ormsby saw from his desk overlooking the lobby were two little Chinese children staining the damask settee with their sodden coats. And it only got worse from there. 3 Chinese women stood nearby, frantically blotting themselves dry with tissues, while a teenager slid wildly across the lobby, his sneakers leaving muddy tracks on the black and white checkerboard marble. Ormsby rushed downstairs from the mezzanine, knowing he could more efficiently dispatch these foreigners than his front desk clerks. "Good evening. I am the general manager. Can I help you?" he said, slowly over enunciating every word. Yes, good evening. We have a reservation, the woman replied in perfect English. So, what do we know?
Mhm.
What do we know about what's happening here? We know that this is two cultures, at least two cultures, coming into direct contact with each other in London, possibly the most cosmopolitan city in the world. We know that there's money involved. We know that there's class involved. We know that there is racism involved.
Mhm.
And we have an inversion of who has the money and who doesn't and what we might expect. It is when we read the word when we read the name Reginald Ormsby, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a white guy. I'm seeing a white guy. And he says, "I am the general manager." So what do we know about him? He is staff. What do we know about Nicholas Young? What do we know about Astrid and Felicity? We know that they're all family. We know that they are rich enough to have almost certainly booked a room in this hotel where they are. So, what's happening is that it doesn't matter that they have all of this money. This white guy still thinks he's better than them. So we
That's right.
know
That's
something's
right.
and and the woman who we learn is Eleanor Young, she responds in perfect English. So
Mhm.
we knock out the expectation that they're just foreigners. Oh, they're just foreigners. Well, they are foreigners, but they're also highly educated,
That's right. Yeah.
accomplished, rich foreigners who have a different skin tone, who are not like him, but he still thinks I'm top because I'm a white guy.
Yeah.
So, this is everything that you need to know about this book because you are getting racism, you're getting money, you're getting East meets West, the concept that money doesn't save you from racism, their power, you get being the politics of being underestimated. And then what we find out a little bit later on in the chapter, spoiler alert, is that we find out that because he doesn't allow them to stay. So, "Oh, I can't find your reservation. Oh, there's nothing here for you." And they all know that he's fucking lying to them.
Right. Right.
They go out and one of them calls her husband and says, "What the fuck is this shit? Help me fix this shit." And he's like, "Oh, I'll call the ambassador in London, Singaporean ambassador, and he knows the guy who owns it." And then the owner walks the whole family into the hotel and says, "Hey, here's your new owner." So it's everything. You get this power reversal. Right? And what it also does is it gets you rooting for everybody almost immediately.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm half Latina, and I think that it's become as I've gotten older, I've started looking a lot more white, but certainly when I was younger, I had a lot of people, having certain expectations of me because I had a Mexican last name growing up until I got married, and they would see kind of brownish skin and make certain assumptions about me
Mhm.
about my socioeconomic status, about my education, about my capacity to speak English, about my citizenship. And then I would open my big fat mouth and this voice came out. And I know what this voice sounds like. And it would throw people for a loop.
Yeah.
So I love this opening because I love subverting expectations like that. Okay, that's my number two. You're up
Awesome.
next.
Okay. This is actually an indie book. It was published a couple years ago. So I got to know this author on Twitter back in the day. We were both pursuing traditional publishing. We were both trying to get an agent. And then at some point she said, you know what? I'm just going to self pub this thing. So I actually beta read this book and it's really good. This is called The Midnight Dolls by Zoe, and I'm gonna butcher her last name, I'm sorry, but I think it's Partica, Zoe Partica. I'm I've definitely gotten her last name wrong.
Zoe, if you're listening, you can completely gut him.
Yeah,
But
yes.
offline, please.
I'm so sorry, Zoe. But it's a fantastic book. It's a rock and roll book. If you like Daisy Jones and the Six, you will probably like this book. Anyway, I thought she wrote a really good opener. So I'm gonna read the opener. this book is told from the point of view of a journalist in 1971 who is following this band as they're going on tour. The band is the Midnight Dolls. So here we go. It doesn't quite matter how many times I've done this, how many bands I've met or venues I've haunted. There is always something about a show that gets me just as buzzed as an alcoholic's first drink after a month of sobriety. It's tantalizing, invigorating, and the excitement throughout the venue is felt from every angle, from from the floorboards to the ceiling to the crew, audience, and musicians themselves. To say it's intoxicating is an understatement. A concert is like a drug, and I'm truly an addict.
Great.
So I really like this opening because it's sort of it again. I picked something that tells you a lot about the main character. And as I said, he's a journalist
Uh-huh.
and he writes for Rolling Stone magazine. And you can see then that this is something that this guy is really passionate about going out, with the band, going to the shows.
Uh-huh.
It's all about the music to him. And not just the music, but the lifestyle, everything around him. And that is really going to inform the rest of this book.
I get the voice immediately. I
Yeah.
it is I know who this person is, and I can tell everything that they are so passionate about and that I'm about to go on a ride with somebody who is very passionate about what they're doing. And also the element of danger. There is something dangerous here about this level of addiction, and kind of chasing the high, right? So, how is this? This is the promise, right? We're promised we're going to be with a rock and roll band or two. We're going to be with a writer. We're going to be going along, we're gonna see some crazy shit. Okay, deliver. Yeah, that is great. And so what's the rest of the book like? Without giving too much away.
Yeah, I don't wanna give too much away about it, but it is kind of an outsider looking in on the dynamics of this band, the Midnight Dolls, as they're on tour, as they interact with each other, as they invariably, we're talking sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right?
Mhm.
So, he is supposed to be the outsider, and he starts getting a little bit closer, a lot a bit closer. One of the dangers of this particular, I guess, subgenre, the rock and roll book
Mm.
is, how do you write about music in prose? It's a tough line to, kinda walk
It's hard.
because, it's a written medium, and so, I think of, like, Daisy Jones and the Six, and she's written actually some lyrics, but you don't have the music
Mhm.
accompanying it, so you just have to sort of use your imagination.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little far afield of, I guess, opening
Sorry. It's
this, but
okay. We
yeah.
barely know what we're doing.
Anyway, so all of that to say, Zoe pulls it off. So go out, The Midnight Dolls, well worth your read.
Okay. I will be adding it to the TBR pile, which is very tall.
Excellent.
Okay, so my last one is because I need to be difficult about everything. I chose an epistolary novel. It's called Dear Committee Members by Julie Schumacher. I am obsessed with the world that she creates in this book, that she then went on to write two more standard prose novels in this universe using all of these characters. But I was all in immediately. Now, I know a lot of people have problems with epistolary novels. I love it. I love epistolary novels because it feels like I'm reading somebody's diary. It feels kind of like it's like, ooh, secrets,
Yep.
All I'm gonna say to you is that the entire novel is recommendation letters that bear with me by a curmudgeonly English professor at a very small liberal arts college. So, we start with a recommendation letter, um, but there are so many different flavors of recommendation letters. So, I'm gonna do a little bit from the first 2 letters, because they are very different in tone. September 3rd, 2009, Anthem Literary Residency Program. Dear committee members, over the past 20-odd years, I've recommended God only knows how many talented candidates for the Bentham January residency, that enviable literary oasis in the woods south of Skowhegan, the solitude, the pristine cabins, the artistic camaraderie, and those exquisite hand-delivered satchels of apples and cheese. Wow, you could scratch all prior nominees and pretenders from your mailing lists because none is as provocative or as promising as Darren Broles. Mr. Broles is my advisee. He's taken 2 of my workshops and his novel in progress, a retelling of Melville's Bartleby, but in which the eponymous character is hired to keep the books at a brothel circa 1960 just outside Las Vegas, is both tender satire and blistering adaptation slash homage. In brief, this tour de force is witty, incisive, original, brutally sophisticated, erotic. You don't need me to summarize it. You'll have received his 2 opening chapters. So, okay, what do we know? What do we know right now? We know he's sucking up. We will also find out why he's sucking up and trying to get Darren Broles into this residency as we go on. It's over the top. You can tell. You can especially tell when you read the next letter. September 4th, 2009, to Theodore Bodie, Chair, Department of English. Dear Ted, your memo of August 30th requests that we on the English faculty recommend some luckless colleague for the position of Director of Graduate Studies. You may have been surprised to find this position vacant upon your assumption of the chairship last month. If so, trust me, you will encounter many such surprises here. A quick aside, Ted, God knows what enticements were employed during the heat of summer to persuade you, a sociologist, to accept the position of chair in a department not your own, an academic unit whose reputation for eccentricity and discord has inspired the upper echelon to punish us by withholding favors as if from a 6-year-old at a birthday party. No raises or research funds for you, you ungovernable rascals, and no fudge before dinner. Perhaps as the subject of a sociological study, you will find the problem of our dwindling status intriguing. So,
Oof.
yes.
Some shades being thrown there.
Yes. So, what do we know? The author is one Jason T. Fitker, professor of creative writing and English at Payne, Payne University. So, what do we know about Jason Fitker? And what is Schumacher trying to do here? And what is she setting us up to expect? What you know?
I mean, I hear it so I hear the sucking up, and then I hear the knocking down,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's very over the top on both ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
In both letters. It's very, there's just so one of them obviously is kind of the suck up. The other one is very passionate,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. He mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just say he is angry, and he is spelling it all out for a sociologist who is coming into a totally different department, basically because the university really does not value the English department. This is like the ongoing thread. All of these novels is how little the university values especially the English department and their ongoing feud with the economics department, and
Mhm.
how they are given all of the money for everything all of the time. And in the second novel in this series is fucking fantastic. They're the English department is basically turfed out of its building for the economics department and kind of relegated to like the basement and the, filthy, dripping rooms in the basement, and people getting into worse and worse rooms, and the poor graduate students, and they're like little, basically like Dickensian urchins in these
Uh-huh.
freezing wet rooms, and while they're having these massive displays of bounty for the economics department. And if you are or ever have been or ever, cared about an English major in your life, first of all, bless you. But second of all, you're going to get it because the English departments are, famously kind of shat upon at a lot of places. Even my own beloved one, it's all I could say is that the professors from my university who were found in the Epstein files were not from the English department. There we go. Computer sciences and physics. Thank you very much. So, I'm not saying they're all good, but I get Fitger immediately. I know he is truculent. I know that he is willing to put his morals aside to get somebody into a
Mhm,
position. We don't know
mhm.
yet, but we can I mean, I picked it up immediately. I was like, "Why is he sucking up like this? Does he really
Right.
there's no way that this guy believes this shit." And as the letter goes on,
Yeah,
you realize
yeah,
it's like, "What the"
it's very evident in that, and it does build that question, right? Is
Yeah.
like, what is going on here?
Yeah, why is he
Yeah.
trying to get him out? I love the thing about that he's rewriting, Herman Melville's Bartleby the Scrivener, but Bartleby, like, is a bookkeeper in a Las Vegas brothel. And the second letter where he's just like, everybody hates us," but you also can as it goes on, you see how he almost revels in being shat upon, like, it's
Mhm.
become part of his character, and you're like, "Okay, okay, who is this guy? He is a terrible human being," but I read 3 whole books about this man because I was just like, "Fuck yeah." Please, if you can get over reading an epistolary novel, please read this book, and then read the other books as well. So they're all wonderful. That's me. That's number 3.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah. But what an interesting kinda spread. We went all over the place.
Yeah, and we didn't compare notes ahead of time
Mm-mm.
either, and I thought that we nailed a lot of ground with
Yeah,
these.
we
Yeah, very cool.
flying blind. So
That's right, per usual.
don't give it all away. So let's talk some hot goss.
Let's do it.
So, got the hot tip today on the hot goss. This was a bad week for hot goss on Threads. It was just a lot of vague threading and like I'm a busy lady. I didn't have enough time to try and
Yeah,
figure
we
it all
we
out. I'm
both
like,
had really
uh.
busy weeks this week, and so that also limited our reach to
But
kinda pull in the hottest goss.
we got a hot tip from friend of the show and former guest Ann Wells, who at the 11th hour sent me a link. She was like, "You guys should cover this in Hot Goss. This is really interesting." And she was totally right. This was a reel on Instagram by Kenzie Deeren. Her handle is Kenzie Deeren Reads. She's a bookstagrammer. So she does book recommendations, book reviews, things like that. It looks like she does a lot of romance and romantasy. So this was a reel that basically said, hey, people, you really need to read more diversely. And if your problem with reading more diversely is that you can't relate to a main character who is of a different race, a different gender identity, different age, national origin. The problem is you because two things. Number one, you need to increase your empathy, and books are a great opportunity to create empathy across all of these divides. But also, if you can relate to, you know, gay folk, who are 800 years old, but you can't relate to a gay man who is in a similar time to your own, that's on you. You're willing to go completely out in fantasy or romantasy. She's not saying it exactly, but the subtext is very clear. This it's bigotry, soft bigotry perhaps, but it is bigotry. And right now, what we need more of in the world is empathy. And I had been thinking about the function of books in creating empathy earlier this week. So this was very well timed.
And far be it from me to tell you what to read. Everybody's got their preferences, but I think what the message here really is if, for instance, you're a horror reader, right? You read everything that Stephen King puts out, you read everything, just everything horror. I'm not telling you that you need to go buy like a gay hockey romance, right?
You could.
You could, you might even enjoy it, but I'm not telling you you have to do that. What I am saying is, even within your genre, if there's a horror book that comes out that features a gay character, maybe a main character who's gay, like, you better not fucking dismiss that book
Mhm.
because, "Oh, I just can't relate to a gay man." Bitch, you relate to, like, vampires and
Mhm.
zombies and all the other shit that comes with a horror book. Don't tell me you can't relate to the to this main character.
I'm guilty of it too. I mean, I know I can do a better job, and there are plenty of books in the genres that I read in that would allow me to do better on this, and it's something I'm trying to improve on.
Yeah, I think a lot of us could do better. You know, I tend to read a lot of either crime fiction or crime fiction adjacent stories that feature a lot of, white men rescuing the damsel in distress. It's not quite that bad, but there's a certain type in these books. Although I also read in that same genre American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson, which features a black woman in the FBI as a main character. I am not a black woman, and yet I can still, read this character and empathize with this character, even though I don't share the same experiences as either the character or the author.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that we all need to kind of broaden our horizons, and you can typically do it even within the genre that you read. I'm not a romance reader. It's very unlikely that I'm going to pick up a romance book, but you don't have to broaden your
And
horizons.
what's amazing is in romance, in, like, Regency romance, which is what I tend to read more of, there are amazing multicultural Regency romance novels out there. Courtney Milan, who is just a fucking great writer, and wow, she has so many completely correct hot takes about politics and the law. She is a lawyer as well. She has written this amazing series where the main characters are in Regency England, but they are Asian families who have established themselves in Britain. They're beautiful, they're rich, they're going through the same issues that you think of, like, well, all the real English people, bullshit, right, are going through. And not only
Mhm,
that, there's a whole, like, subgenre of these Caribbean 18th century, like, Victorian novels set, in, like, Barbados and in Cuba, Puerto Rico. You've got one set in the Philippines, like, all of this cool ass shit. We need more empathy right now.
mhm, for sure,
We
for sure.
absolutely need it, and it's going to be what saves us all is the ability to put ourselves in other people's shoes.
Yeah, and possibly the ability to read.
Yeah, that's also a good thing. So next week, we're going to talk about some stuff that embarrasses us a little bit. But we're going to talk about books that we started writing and then shelved, and a little bit about why we started writing them and why we shelved them, what it's like to lose your passion for a project, and what it's
Mhm,
like when that project starts to bother you again, as one of my shelved books is currently bothering me. So,
excellent.
yeah. Anything else you wanna say about opening pages that we've talked a lot now. I think we did a pretty good job. Pat on the back. Another pat on the back.
Yeah, I think so. The key here really is you wanna build in a hook. You don't have to have the most amazing opening line. You don't have to try to compete with Jane Austen, or any of the others authors that we talked about. You just have to have a good solid hook into your story, into your universe,
Mhm.
into your
Your
characters, and
hook is your
that's
world.
really it. Your hook is your world.
So, in the meantime, you can find us on all the socials, or at least the ones that we care to post on. We are Badlit Friends everywhere. Bluesky, Threads, not bringing it this week. Instagram, YouTube. Please continue to rate, review, share our podcast. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple Music. We are on Antenna Pod. Come join me on Antenna Pod. We're I think on iHeartRadio, strangely enough, which still exists and I was not aware of. Amazon Music. Very strange to Google one's own name and find oneself on Amazon, but not for a book, for a podcast. We are available there. So if you say, Alexa, Please play Bad Lit Friends. Hopefully, I didn't set your Alexa off.
I think you just triggered some Alexas, yeah.
Good. But until next time, we will see you then.
Bye.